Welcome to Anime I Watched in 2025 Final Part, where I review new and continued anime of that year, plus anime I watched in that year that wasn't 2025 anime. And after I review each one, I place them in a ranking chart. This is a continuation of anime I watched in 2025 Part 1 and 2, so if you haven't watched those videos, I recommend watching those two before watching this one. Rule number 1. I will not include anime that I started watching before 2025. For example, I started watching Jobless Reincarnation in early 2024, and finished watching it in late 2025 in order to review Jobless Reincarnation Season 2 for this video, but I won't include Season 1. And I'll be adding a new rule for this part. Rule number 2. I will not count an anime that I only watched the first episode of. Because I was planning to watch all of Love Live Sunshine Season 1 before going to the real-life locations used in that anime, but ended up not going because watching anime on Crunchyroll was impossible to do in Japan, and because 1/8 of my 1-month trip in Japan was ruined by a fever. Also, just watching the first episode and saying that you watched the anime kind of feels like cheating. Because you need to progress at least a few more episodes to understand the anime better. I'd also like to say 3 notes. To indicate that I still like an anime even though it's low on the list, yellow text indicates peak anime, green text indicates good anime, blue indicating mid, and red indicating bad. My other note is that these reviews are based on my own opinions, so if you disagree with some of my opinions, that's fine, it's the internet. Feel free to share any kind of opinion you want. The third note is that in part 2, I reviewed anime I watched from the other half of April to the first day of September, so in this video, I will review anime that I watched from September to December. And before we get on with the reviewing, this video will contain major spoilers to these anime listed here. So if you want to avoid spoilers from any of these anime, this video is not recommended for you. Now without further ado, this is anime I watched in 2025 Final Part. And we're starting off with 4 movies in a row, with the first one being Scarlet. When I watched Scarlet, I got to see the premiere screening before its official release date on November at last year's Toronto International Film Festival, and the director of the movie, Mamoru Hosoda, was also there. The legend who made The Girl Who Slipped Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, The Boy and the Beast, and so many other great anime movies. So the movie is about a girl named, well, who's seeking to avenge her father's death in the land between the living and the dead. Then a 21st century nurse from Japan who tags along on her journey of revenge convinces her to stop killing people because it's wrong. But after she heard her father's last words that the executioner heard back in the land of the living, forgive, she was able to change before she catches up to the horrible person who killed her father, and let nature itself kill him, which got her to be brought back into the land of the living. Before I cover every other detail, I just want to say that the 3D animation for this movie is pure cinema, where the real world is Studio Ghibli's usual 2D style, and the fantasy world is 3D, and it blends in like art. The world building is also great. The land between life and death connects all time periods around the world, so that's able to make Scarlet think, if the 21st century still has war in some places, then is my path of revenge only causing more war? Now for the story. I think I should also mention the backlash it's getting from Japanese audience along with it. They say that this movie is a failure for having a story that juggles too many elements that we don't know what Mamoru is trying to tell us. I mean, it sort of makes sense, since to them, a land between life and death, revenge equals more violence, and I want to live are ideas they've seen in other stories. And I guess the only thing right that the Japanese audience questions is, how the heck did Scarlet's uncle and his whole army end up in this realm? Now that I realize it, I guess I do have some gripes with this movie. However, they all don't know what Mamoru got inspiration from for the story. Shakespeare. So after the movie ended in the premiere screening, there was a Q&A with Mamoru Hosoda where his concept for the story was based on Hamlet, hence the similarities in the names. And that shows well in the climax where Scarlet finally reached her uncle at Eternity in misery because the doors of Eternity wouldn't open for him, and lashes out at Scarlet because of that. Scarlet backfires at him, and causing her to be trapped in her thoughts that she can never forgive any person when she realizes what her father's last words, forgive, meant was to forgive yourself if you want to live and be better. Meaning that you sure can never forgive trash-hearted people like her uncle, but it's okay to forgive yourself even after all the killing she's done. As long as she can change and leave nature to decide what they should do with awful people. Look, the uncle's perspective of the world is like this much, which is why Eternity didn't let him in. So it definitely tells the audience not to waste time on little people. You hear me? Little people. Because they'll eventually be judged by the flow of time. It's definitely a message that anyone can understand. But I guess it's understandable that some scenes are not well written, and they try to repetitively force any kind of message into the audience. Which is definitely an understandable reason to hate this movie, but come on, Japanese Twitter users. You can hate it without being a f***ing dick, okay? And because, at least in my opinion, it still has a well-written story, I'm placing it above Solo Leveling 2, which doesn't have that much of a story. I went to see the IMAX screening of Mugen Castle Part 1, and I gotta say, it was really good going as Muzan. The animation is so god-tier, and its global box office numbers surpass Mugen Train, Superman, and Disney. The story is after all the Demon Slayers get teleported to the Mugen Castle, Shinobu finally finds the demon who killed her sister, Doma, but gets killed by him. You know, I actually got spoiled that this will happen, because I saw its cosplay performance at World Cosplay Summit 2023. Then back to back we have Zenitsu finally taking things seriously as he fights his rival who became a demon, and Tanjiro and the character I dislike, fighting Akaza, and I finally found out why people say he's well written. And man, I finally get why Muzan gets a lot of hate. Like, look! He literally forcefully replaced Akaza's human way of thinking to a demon weapon! I was really cosplaying this character when watching? Seriously? Now, that's all for Mugen Castle Part 1. I'm saving space to talk for the Reze movie, 100 Meters, Jobless Reincarnation 2, and MHA Final Season. So if you want a bigger analysis on this movie, there is plenty of other content creators talking about this movie longer, and their opinions are mostly the same as mine. I first read the full Reze arc of Chainsaw Man back in 2024, but I did want to watch the movie as well to see how Mappa could perfect the fight scenes and to better express the story. Denji thinks he'll always love Makima, but still can't get over the fact that he can't be emotional because he thinks he doesn't have a heart. But when Denji got a chance to go on a movie marathon date with Makima, they both cried on the last movie they watched because that movie had its own uniqueness out of all the other movies, proving that Denji has a heart. But the next day, Reze got Denji's attention, starting to spend more time with her because she seems to give more love and care to Denji. It keeps Denji thinking if he should choose Reze or Makima as his lover. But when Reze asks Denji if we can run away together, it gets Denji to realize to make the right choice and say that he can't go because it will mean abandoning his friends at the Devil Hunter Corporation. Reze reveals herself as the bomb devil from the Soviet Union, who was actually manipulating Denji to assassinate him and steal his Pochita heart. Reze chases Denji while killing innocent lives along the way, which led to Denji having to fight her to not get killed. Luckily, they both survived. Denji offers Reze to become allies in the Devil Hunter organization, even though Reze killed many people. Reze refuses. She changes her mind last minute that she wants to love Denji for real, but it was too late. Makima already caught her, showing a bigger sign that it's dangerous if Denji stays as Makima's pet. This is truly a story arc that asks, what is love? Because Chainsaw Man Season 1 was cool and action-packed, but you couldn't learn any morals or messages from it because Denji and other characters were too flawed. This movie changes the minds who think that about Chainsaw Man. And let's not forget that this movie was hyped up all around the world from the promotional materials, global theater releases. It broke the global box office record of $158 million, with the budget of the film literally being just $4 million. That's insane! This way more people can acknowledge anime as a great way to tell stories. Because come on, if people living in North America are sick with their movies not being as great in the past, why don't they just switch to watching anime? This movie and the Infinity Castle movie reached a lot of people in the States, so it should be possible. Now, let me talk about the opening and ending songs by none other than Kenshi Onizu, the GOAT. Our Out just describes both the craziness and romance, and Jane Doe describes Reze's disappearance and Denji wishing for Reze to come back, with Hikaru Utada as the lead singer because Kenshi described her as a voice that goes in and out of the window without even realizing. Kenshi Onizu is my #1 singer-songwriter, so I just love every anime opening and ending he makes. They're all bangers. And finally, I've said this in part 2, but I'll say it again. マッパのアニメーターさんたち、チェンソーマンレズ編、お疲れ様でした！ 100円 Just like Look Back from 2024, this movie animates the humans realistically that it almost makes the movie feel like live action, just with more emotion. The story focuses on even though running looks simple, if you run at your top speed it can change the course of your life, whether it be good or bad. I'm not going to spoil anything major about the film, but what I can say is that the original manga is the same person who created Orb on the movements of the Earth, which focuses on an idea changing your life, which has a similar story idea as 100M. Definitely was a great experience watching it in Japan. The day has come to finally talk about the anime I was most excited about this year, My Hero Academia Final Season. After my long journey of getting into My Hero Academia during my first year of high school, ended within an instant. Okay, now that I'm in an MHA cosplay mode, let's talk about Peak. First let me talk about the opening and ending songs. The opening song, The Revo, is by Pornograffiti, the same band that sang the very first opening. After listening to it once a week for 3 weeks on every episode drop on Final Season when watching it in Japan, it got me to finally really love that opening. Because not just does it fit the tone of the season and reveal Bakugo's comeback in the second version of the sequence, it brings back the line of When I noticed that callback, I cried listening to it and sang every time it played because this is my new second favorite anime opening of all time, with the #1 being Peace Sign and #3 being Curtain Call. The ending song, I by Bump of Chicken, is so satisfying to listen to. Each frame summing up the entirety of Deku's journey in the anime, and Bump of Chicken is one of the pioneers of Japanese indie music. So they mix with MHA's vibe a lot, like with Spy Family and Delicious in Dungeon. Then let me talk about the animation by Bones. Bones' animation recapturing the super detailed panels from the manga while still having so many frames and 100% consistent lighting and illustration is just so satisfying. Like it's the best Bones has ever done animation in this show if you exclude the movies. Next, the concluding story arc. The story continues from Armored All Might vs All for One 2 and Deku vs Shigaraki. No matter how much All Might's armor is getting torn piece by piece, he never gave up till he could do no more. And Bakugo got brought back to life thanks to Edgeshot sacrificing his body to move Bakugo's wounded heart. He and Deku, after 1.5 seconds of fast thinking, did the most powerful Little Big Planet player fling to save All Might at the last second, and showing us the strongest explosion quirk moment, because his dream of becoming a true hero who wins with purpose shines bright. And he did the All Might pose after he killed All for One 2, and finally reached the same level as Prime All Might. Now all we have left is Deku vs Shigaraki, not giving up to tell Shigaraki that he can still be human and live a better life, as Deku gets more beaten up to the point that he went on Carnage mode. But then Deku and the One For All predecessors find a hole that's a leaking light that Star and Stripe made in the Star and Stripe arc in Season 7, where Deku and all the One For All predecessors all go in to save Shigaraki mentally, with Deku having to sacrifice his One For All quirks in order to get in, where he finally saw the boy crying. Because of Shigaraki's DK powers, he couldn't touch anyone because it would immediately kill the person he touched. Regardless, Deku had zero holdbacks, touching him, and Deku's kind words finally reached Shigaraki. Because Shigaraki always wanted to become a hero because his childhood friends inspired him, but his awful father, Kotaro, kept on directly refusing it because Kotaro's mom was Nana Shimura, One For All's 7th user, who didn't mean to leave Kotaro all by himself after her death. But Kotaro's trauma worsened due to All For One's transformation manipulation, meaning that he planned Shigaraki getting physically abused by Kotaro, causing Shigaraki to gain his decay quirk because of his mentality and killing his whole family. You know, back when I binge-watched MHA up to Season 5 back in grade 9, I hated Kotaro so much that I almost punched the computer because it's wrong to hurt people just because you're hurt. And now that I realized that it was all part of All For One's plan, I now hate him the most. Because not just was he puppeting Shigaraki since the day Shigaraki was born, he also cut off Kyokuchiro's earphone jack! So after Shigaraki realized that he had his allies all along to be a hero to them, and finally lightening his heart, All For One eats him. I hate All For One more. And Deku's now back into being quirkless, just like when he started his hero journey. All hope is lost. All For One fully took over Shigaraki's body, and it's the end for the good that exists in the world. Psych! All the available heroes who can still fight, and all the Class 1A students, Part 2, all support Deku because of how inspiring he is to all of them. And citizens do what they can to give aid to Deku, every turn for a reversing horn for Deku to bring back his arms, and a random person we don't know taking off his All Might t-shirt for Deku to wear to symbolize that he's a hero. After that, we finally reached the ultimate climax for MHA. Everyone available versus All For One. For the part where I talk about this fight scene, I actually didn't script this, so I thought it would be better to express it unscripted right here. Because it's the climax of MHA. It's the absolute peak. Because to understand this 9.8 rated episode, we need to go back in time to Season 1 to understand that more. When we're first introduced to Izuku Midoriya, he's just a nobody, a zero, who wants to become a hero even though he doesn't have any superpowers. And when he started his journey, after All Might said to him that he can become a hero, a lot of people were pushing him, like his childhood friend Bakugo, who hated Deku for being weak, or Teneiida, who first thought that Deku wasn't being serious about being a hero. But it's also fast for Ida to realize that Deku is serious. Razorhead, who first doubted Deku's actions on trying to sacrifice his arm, thinking that Deku wasn't serious about being a hero, but immediately changed his mind after Deku minimized his body damage, and that's where he started to like Deku. And even all the other Class 1A students who were watching the Deku vs. Bakugo fight felt inspired from Deku because of how hard he's trying and he's not giving up, where they all reach out to Deku and they become friends, and they start to support Deku more. And after lots of obstacles that Deku can endure but Bakugo is struggling with, it gave a lot of time for Deku to change lots of people's hearts. In Class 1A, the people he saves, his enemies, the characters in all the MHA movies. That's what finally made Bakugo completely support Deku, by finally calling him Izuku after 5 seasons of bullying Deku and calling him Deku. And because the citizens in Japan had no idea who Deku was, when they first heard of him after the Liberation War and the heroes lost, and it was revealed that Deku is a user of One for All who has many quirks, that's where lots of people were afraid of Deku and rather saw him as a villain than a hero, where Ochako Raraka and Bakugo protected him and showed to the citizens that he's just a kid who's trying his best to become the world's greatest hero. And that's where it finally led to this episode. When Deku started his journey, he was a zero where everybody pushed him and denied his dream, and no one supported for him. But now, everyone supports Deku, from zero to hero. In order for Deku to hit his strongest punch to go kill All for One, a lot of his classmates create a path for him, or give him a speed boost, because he was running, and everyone was saying "Ganbare," which means give it your all, as he uses up the remaining flames of his One for All to reach the main foe. And while Inko Midoriya is a good mother to Izuku Midoriya and loves him dearly, Inko Midoriya also felt defeated when Deku was 5 and wasn't able to get a quirk, where she can only say sorry that she wasn't able to let her son achieve his dreams. Inko Midoriya overcomes that and says "Ganbare" to Deku. And luckily, Shigaraki was still alive, although himself getting decayed slowly in order to kill All for One from the mental realm side and the real world. And because he saw no sign of good in All for One, Deku's like, "You're not a monster or a demon, you're just an unfixable, lonely person with not a single speck of good," because as we see in All for One's backstory, he was always born evil, while his brother, the first user of One for All, was always good from the start. So Deku was like, f it, he's unredeemable, so kill him. And after that punch, the blue skies were back, with hope and peace finally restored back in Japan. And luckily, after the story arc, we have the epilogue arc, spanning 3 episodes, making it the falling action of the entire MHA anime, summing up the Todoroki family business, Ochako Raraka still trying to overcome her regret of not being able to save Toga, Gentle Criminal finally being able to become a real hero, Deku being able to change Spinner's heart a tiny bit by telling him Shigaraki's last words to tell to Spinner, and with the entire class of A students finally graduating 2 years later. And 8 years later after that, we see Deku as an adult. Wait, as a regular teacher? With still having no quirks? Wait, but Deku, your dream was to become the greatest hero. But why, Deku? You're the one who were told by All Might that you can become a hero even without a quirk, which applies to a lot of citizens doing a lot of helping without the need of some heroes. So I guess that's why the MHA ending in the manga was controversial, because Deku didn't achieve his dream. But luckily, the anime changed that. All Might presents Deku with a full Iron Man-like armor with a JoJo reference add-on, and we see for the last time, Koi, Deku, as all the Class 1A students reunite to go fight crime and do good and be the symbol of hope, as Deku has finally reached his dream goal of becoming the greatest hero, and he has. Plus an end credits where each student is revealed their daily life on what they're doing with their superhero life, with Mina Ashido attending to every dance party! Yes! We finally get to see a standalone of what Mina Ashido's hero life is, with just 1 text! Sorry, 2 texts. 2 texts, let's go! I've said it before and I'll say it once more. My Hero Academia final season was the best anime that I have watched in 2025. This season of Spy Family keeps the cozy family of the Forgers and their daily comedical lives, but at the same time it's also taking a huge turn in seriousness and plot, toned the humor down, and we see more character expansion. And the opening song by an indie Japanese artist called Spitz has a tone that symbolizes the transition from lighthearted comedy to a serious story. I'm not going to spoil how the story pushes forward, because, I don't know, I think finding it out by yourself would blow your mind harder. Because of that reason, this season 3 passes as peak. But a week later, I watched the season 3 of a different anime that I didn't even notice at first was falling apart. Now, let's first talk about the opening and ending songs of the anime. I like the ending song that's sung by Saitama's VA, Makoto Furukawa. It's neat that it keeps the trope of an empty city like the last 2 seasons. I also like the opening song by Jam Project as usual featuring... Wait a sec, Baby Metal? No way! They actually got the band that's famous for Gimme Chocolate? Anyway, and the song sounds better than the previous one. Just let me compare them. But first things first, why did they reuse animation from the first opening? I mean, if you're saving the budget for the actual episodes, that's fine, as long as the Thirsty. Bandai. By the way, brownish red symbolizes blasphemy. Nice to see the second season of Campfire Cooking. We've got a new cute companion called Dorchan, more recipes, more direct brand references, and Mukoda's still struggling with his beasts hunting down oversized beasts. Man, this dude really is gonna have item storage fatigue, and it's not his fault. I feel sorry for him. But the best part is, of course, the cooking. It just gets me drooling metaphorically, because seeing how peaceful and calm it is to see delicious meals that Mukoda makes with Mappa, adding those minuscule details in the meals Mukoda makes, like the previous season. Now, what am I forgetting? That's right. ここでも言いますが、Mappa, 料理神、お疲れ様でした! Vending machines. Yes! It works the best in Japan. A variety of their drinks, they can sell not just drinks, and they're everywhere you go in Japan. Like, everywhere, including anime. Because I think it's a good idea to see how useful and reliable a vending machine can be in a fantasy world, where fast food chains all taste generic, and there's not many useful items for daily life. But to see if this anime is good or mid, we first need to understand slop anime. Now, what is slop anime? So, slop anime is anime pumped out by lesser-known studios that have repetitive, generic original stories with no real stakes or tense conflicts, because the main character is too overpowered and doesn't struggle. They also come with fan service harem, lots of planks of wood characters, mostly being an isekai, and an unnecessarily long title. And Reborn as a Vending Machine does have a long title, and has Boxo reincarnated in a pretty stupid way, but I don't think it's slop.
What?
There is a misconception in the Western anime community that this was what started all slop anime because there's reincarnated as a sword where the sword can do nothing but slash and gain random magic upgrades, which makes the Western anime community think, hey, if they're reincarnating as an object for the rest of their life, then what? Reincarnating as a tissue box? Reincarnated as a pair of underwear? Reincarnated as a dildo? And those are some valid reasons to hate on Vending Machine. But the magic of Vending Machine is that half of it is slice of life, where Boxo actually enjoys being a vending machine, because in his previous life he was a vending machine otaku because of how versatile they can be. And while he can change into many vending machine forms and sometimes breaking the rules by changing into jukeboxes or AED kit boxes, he does have limits. And there is no harem, and these four main characters other than Boxo are well fleshed out. So, is Reborn as a vending machine slop? Maybe, but to me, it's not that sloppy. I really like the story arc, proving that with a change in your way of thinking, can change the world. Reo forgets thinking about standing next to Nagi when on the field so that he can use his new copy technique. Welcome to the copying squad, kid. Isagi being the guide of a whole team in dire situations, and learning the flow of a real soccer match. And it's thanks to the message of, if you change your way of thinking, you can reach your goals in better satisfaction. It really helped me a lot. Since when I started becoming a YouTuber, I was juggling all of the things I loved, that I didn't know that it confused the YouTube algorithm and can come with better editing strategies and better content creating techniques. And after I posted the videos I wanted viewers to watch the most, bombed miserably. That's where I decided I needed to change in 2026, which I'm going to make a separate video on after my 2-week hiatus after this video. Change your way of thinking definitely is a life-changing message. Now don't worry, I didn't forget about the PowerPoint animation, since it's the main highlight of the season. But you know, after we saw how much more horrible the animation in One Punch Man Season 3 was, I think we all owe an apology to Blue Lock vs. U20 Japan arc, because the illustration's still consistent, there's more minor animation, some static scenes can be excused with that time is stopping to know what each character is thinking. The pacing is faster, they don't use lazy filters, and when characters are moving in real time as sliding animation, I actually find it more laughable because it goes from a well-animated running scene to suddenly freezing with the background in the back, and also because the animator is locked in for the last 1/3 of the season. So that's why I'm placing the vs. U20 Japan arc at the good column's highest slot. The collection of Fujimoto Sensei's one-off chapters, each animated by different studios. All of them really have a lot of uniqueness and chaos. And the very first one really traumatized me because of how the aliens eat humans. No, I don't want to remember now! But not to worry, each episode has its own age ratings and they can be watched in whatever order they like, similar to Star Wars Visions. It definitely proves how much Fujimoto Sensei puts in a lot of creativity into his story and art, so if you're a big Tatsuki Fujimoto fan, I highly recommend taking it a go. I'm really thankful that Jobless Reincarnation Season 2 was the last anime of last year that I started and finished. First, let's cover the story. Season 1 left off with Ellis dumping Rudius, and with Rudius' mom, Zenith, still missing ever since the teleportation incident happened. Season 2 starts with Rudius working alone, joining clan by clan to search for Zenith. He meets a guy who makes Rudius realize that it's okay to express any kind of pain or depression without hiding it with a smile. A few days later, Rudius decides to go to a magic university with Alina Lise, an elf who is a former party member of Rudius' father. In the university, he meets lots of new faces and reunites with his doll carpenting apprentice, Zanoba. The rest of Core 1 focuses on the slice of life around the campus and reuniting with Sylphie after 10 years and marrying her. Then the last 1/3 of the season moves the plot forward again when Zenith's search party got announced. Sylphie lets Rudius go to join and find Zenith. When joining the party with Selene Lise, he reunites with Geese, his magic teacher Roxy, and his father Paul. Zenith was imprisoned unconscious in ice, guarded by a Hydra monster. However, after the party defeated the monster, Paul died, protecting Rudius from a deadly attack. Rudius felt regret in the moment, because his duty of protecting his mother caused his father's death, and when Zenith finally woke up, her memories were completely wiped that her mind was like a newborn baby. But at the same time, the rescue party all shared the guilt and didn't blame the other members because they tried their best. But he was also conscious about taking on responsibility as the active eldest of his family tree once he got home to Sylphie. The regret was gone, and Paul was gone, but not forgotten, as Rudius happily lives with his family. Now let's talk about some of the characters in this season, but because I want to get this video done without any more delays, sadly I won't be including some characters like Roxy becoming Rudius' second wife because explaining that would be complicated. First, let's talk about Elena Lise. When I first saw her back in Season 1, she's always horny having sex with random men that it made me think that only gooners like this character. But in this season, it's revealed that she f***s people every day because of a curse she has that kills her if she doesn't have sex, and knows not to do with minors. However, after she found a college student to permanently love, the curse is now broken. Because of this, I actually like Elena Lise with proper reason. I'll add her to my dream cos plans. We also have Rudius' sister, Norn. Back in Season 1, Norn still saw Rudius as a bad person after seeing him beat up Paul, and locked herself in her dorm because she hated it when classmates didn't shut up about Norn's sibling relationship with Rudius. So when Rudius went to see Norn, it was like seeing himself in the mirror before he got reincarnated. He instantly learned that when he used to lock himself up in his room, he thought his world rejected him when really he was just giving up too soon. So when Rudius and Norn make amends, Rudius finally prevents someone from making the same mistake as he did. Next we have... I hate this loser. This is Nanahoshi, a girl Rudius saved from getting hit by Truck-kun, who got summoned to Rudius' world. Her motivation of wanting to go back to the Earth that has Japan is well written, but she goes far as to hating this world for no reason? Saying that you hate Isekai food is like saying that you hate Italian food! See, this is why people overseas like Japan, but hate the unwelcoming people who are there. Seriously, don't be mean. But luckily, we have Sanaba who cheers me up. He isn't just a nerd who loves all dolls regardless of type or gender. He also carries guilt of accidentally killing a newborn sibling in his family because of his strengths, and treats his slave Rudius bot with heartful care and teaches her his language with kindness. Now let's finally cover Rudius. Unlike any other main characters in shonen or seinen manga/anime, his biggest character flaw was being a disgusting touchy pervert despite the good he has in his heart. And it came from his locking himself up life, where he watched porn where he got his pervert personality from. And his pervy personality backfires at him, like getting a false accusation for being behind trafficking young human beast girls, or Zanaba's younger brother, Pax, not to confuse it with my YouTube alias, being a worse perv than Rudius to the point of planning to grape Zenith and Roxy. Yes, he was dumb enough to not know where Zenith and Roxy even were, and Eris dumping Rudius after 2 years of traveling together. But all these backfires force Rudius to slowly change and his personality finally matures. While his pervy side sneaks in some moments in the season,
you got a secret harem?
He fully changes after the family reunions he made. So, you definitely can never forgive Rudius for some of his unhinged actions, but that's what men in reality act when they lock themselves up in their room for too long. And because Jobless Reincarnation is an Isekai seinen about second chances, his character growth is real. Truly is a life-changing anime. Finally. It's finally done. Anime I watched in 2025, ranked, is now officially done. It is complete. The first time I've ever completed an anime I watched in a specific year because I came up with a better editing strategy. Let me rephrase that. Because I blew locked in and didn't make any of the mistakes I did last year. So, what was your favorite anime that you watched in 2025? Let me know in the comments below. So now, I'll be taking a 2-week hiatus from uploading YouTube videos to fix my algorithm. After those 2 weeks, my channel will fully be about anime, cosplay, and Just Dance, and some streaming. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks.